My theory is that facial recognition will find it harder. So there you go. Hi, I'm Nick from Ethereal. We are a self-sovereign identity engine. The idea being to provide a method to identify the hand inside any sock puppets. So you can interact with a sock puppet, and that is a pseudonymous way for the person to present themselves to the internet. So that's fantastic if you want to keep yourself anonymous, and lots of us use many identities. But what other people want to know is that that identity is unique, that the person behind it, is a unique human being. So we have a system to identify the hand inside the puppet without revealing whose hand it is. The traditional method, so for as long as there has been representative democracy, in order to prevent fraud, you've had to have central authorities who are able to keep registries of all the people and make sure that people only vote once. This is obviously a single attack surface, and it would be really nice to distribute the attack surface. So you want a decentralized system. So what's it called? PGP already has a really nice way of doing this, which is the monkey sphere. And the semantic web has a nice way of doing it, which is a friend of a friend. The problem with relying on friendship groups and social graphs where I get to choose who it is that I believe in, so I say, yes, this identity is a real human being and not a bot, is that I might be lying. And if I'm recommended by lots of other of my friends, you have an infinite regression of lying. So you could have a set of bots that go around validating other bots and saying, yes, this is a real human being, and there's no way out of that. So what you need is a random pairing between users of the system. And so you nominate or you get given someone to go and validate. So if you think about the way the mechanics of this would work, much like the way that buying something on eBay works when you go and buy a collects. eBay has a nice transparent conversational system where you don't necessarily need to know where the other person is in the world until they give you their address. And then you are, or the buyer and the seller are responsible for coordinating their meeting. So we have a very similar system to that, except that rather than having a central authority in the form of eBay, this is overseen, or at least has the facility to be overseen by another random third party. So we've called them watchmen, but arbiter, whatever. Now they don't have to be involved in the interaction at all. But if they spot anything that's fishy, they can say one of these people is not acting with integrity. Now it's like jury service. Everybody gets asked to be a watchman. Everybody gets asked to be a validator, and everybody gets asked to be validated. We think about 5 times a year should do it to begin with. So 5 times a year, you as a user would volunteer to either validate, be a watchman, or be validated. And then you can have all sorts of information validated in this way. So your age, your gender, where you live in the world, all sorts of things. Whether you've got a degree, someone can come and look at the physical piece of paper, your driving license. You can put anything, you can attest to anything in this sort of third-party way. The team at the moment is that there are 2 of us on the team, but we're both user experience web design people. We don't have any back-end developers at the moment. So we're looking for Solidity, Node.js, people who are able to connect the blockchain to the shiny front end that we can build. Of course, there's always the option, we're always happy to have people poke us and tell us we're doing it wrong, and there are better ways to do it. So it's not like we only want people who are able to commit to providing a massive back end, but that's mainly what we really need is Solidity, and that's it. What we are hoping to achieve by the end of the hackathon is to have at the very least, a fully functioning demo of the way that 2 people might interact with one another. And there is an awful lot more to the back end of the system than just the the interaction part, the user experience, because we want to be able to keep the information validated and off-chain, so that people have their own information under their own control. And that would all then be authorized access to that via escrow, multi-sigs. And that way, if you lose your keys, our system gives an option to get back into it. In fact, Uport we would fit into Uport very nicely. Uport have got, they use Facebook and Twitter and all of that to give you a social profile, and we would fit in as one of those sort of blocks in the Uport back end. But anyway, what we would be wanting to do by the end of the hackathon is make it so that we could provide a working prototype. We did build a nice demo last year, because we were in the hackathon last year, and you can find that at demo.ethere.al. So demo.ethere.al. The reason that we want to build Ethereal is to make it so that we can facilitate any trust without a Leviathan. Okay, so we would like to be able to provide a system that is like an API that any user validating system can plug into, to make sure that no matter what you present to the world in front of you, you have a human behind it, which means that you can have one person, one vote systems, or any voting, any secret ballot system requires a method of knowing that the person is a human and an individual. So we plug into anything like that. Any reputation system, you want to know that the person you're talking to has the reputation they claim to have. Any qualification system. So we would like to provide the means for a system to validate that the users are the individuals they say they are and have the attributes they claim to have. So we built if you go to demo.ethereal.al, whatever, then you can see it's really clunky, because we built it. I mean, yes, what was it? It wasn't 5 weeks last year. It was 2 weeks.
If that, I was going to say, right, I wasn't around last year for it, but yeah, right.
But the point is that we, I spent most of it jumping up and down, going, "Come and help me! I'm lovely! Come on!" And I've got Peter involved, and he came and built a beautiful front end, and I just hacked it together to, with the design of how it was going to work. So if you go through the demo, it's 5 pages, 10 pages, 15 possible routes through it, and you can see vaguely what we're talking about. But it's much the sort of thing that Casper's going to have. As far as I can tell, the way that Casper's emerging, it's a very similar system to Casper. One of the major difficulties I've been trying to work out is how to do forward secret random selection of the, so that I can't, finding a way of randomly selecting the next person in the queue without making that a vector of attack, which is not something I've found particularly easy. But anyway, the point is that there's an awful lot more to the whole reason I wanted to do it was for real world voting. Yeah. And there's a shitload more in it as well. So this is the ethereal part is the first block in a set of things. But seeing as everybody's building them, like insurance and all that, the wheel's going to be invented many times, and with any luck, it'll get to the point where there'll be multiple ways of attacking the same problem. If everybody did 5 validations a year, and my way of imagining the revenue stream is the cost of the ether, the gas price plus 10% gas price. So you're paying absolute micropayments, bloody tiny micropayments. And what I really want is someone else to build like a kudos engine for developers, so that anybody who writes a commit and it gets accepted by peer review, they get a slice of that pot. So I don't give a fuck. I don't want any money. What I want is to make it so that everybody gets that. But it seems to me that if you had penetration of the US and UK market, then that's I can't remember how many, but it's 200 and 300 million people times 5 times a year. So a couple of pennies a time, there's definitely going to be enough money to pay the developers. And that's all that matters.
Yeah, absolutely.
It just needs to be a rock solid piece of kit. And I don't care if it sucks. I mean, personally, I think that because I'm a philosopher in the first place and an economist. So I've come at this from a completely different angle. I'm very disappointed in the level of understanding of economics of the vast majority of people who I hear speaking on the forums and going, "Oh, we need it," like the DAO debacle. You know, people who just, the ideology gets in the way of the clear thinking. And the problem that is happening to Ethereum in general, in my opinion, is that people keep looking at Ether as a currency. It's got fuck all to do with it. They should leave it alone and just think of it as gas. And I'm hoping that all the people or if sharding gets sorted out nicely so that anyone can run it on a laptop or their phone and have enough processing power to do a couple of transactions, and then as long as you keep participating, you can afford to use the system, that could get rid of all of the speculation, because it will be so much, the supply and the demand will be in equilibrium because everybody who uses it will be providing the service. And that's what I'm looking for with Ethereal as well, making it so that everybody who wants an identity has to validate someone else. So there's nobody to pay, because you automatically, by participating, you are the provider, which is what Facebook have been doing all the time. We are the product of Facebook. But we don't. So basically, I'm doing exactly the same principle. The users are the product, but the users are also the owners.